After a hearty dinner, filled with laughter and teasing from Tristan's parents, Ren found himself feeling surprisingly comfortable in the Hunter household. They had made him feel welcome, and the warm, inviting atmosphere allowed him to relax. When the time came for Ren to head home, Tristan insisted that he stay over for the night. "Are you sure? I don't want to impose," Ren said, biting his lip nervously. "Trust me, it'll be fun. Plus, I'll get to torture you more," Tristan replied, with a playful smirk. Ren chuckled, his heart fluttering at the thought of spending more time with Tristan. "All right, but only if you promise not to do anything too embarrassing." Once settled back in Tristan's room after dinner, Ren felt a surge of excitement. The familiar playfulness returned, and they fell into easy conversation, joking and laughing as they sprawled on the floor, surrounded by pillows. "So, let me give you your second dare," Ren said, glancing at Tristan with a teasing grin. "What is it?" Tristan asked, raising an eyebrow. "I'm not doing any more plays," he continued, pretending to look serious, but the laughter in his voice betrayed him. They both erupted into laughter, the tension of the previous moments dissipating. "So," Tristan prodded, leaning closer, his curiosity piqued. "It's more of a question instead of a dare," Ren said, feeling a knot of nerves form in his stomach. "Okay, so?" Tristan prompted again, his expression shifting from playful to attentive. Ren took a deep breath, feeling his heart race. "What's with you and Amelia? Are you two going out or something?" The question slipped out before he could second-guess himself, but as soon as it did, he regretted it. The air in the room shifted, and Ren felt vulnerable. Tristan's amusement danced in his eyes as he regarded Ren. "Why this question?" he asked, tilting his head slightly. Before Ren could formulate an answer, Tristan leaned in closer, his expression suddenly serious. "Do you like me?" Ren was taken aback by the directness of the question. "Never mind," he mumbled, turning away and pulling the blanket over himself as if it could shield him from the unexpected intensity of the moment. Silence fell between them, thick with unspoken thoughts and feelings. Ren could hear his own heartbeat thundering in his ears, uncertainty and confusion swirling within him. He felt exposed, and he desperately wanted to retract his question, but the weight of Tristan's gaze kept him rooted in place. After what felt like an eternity, Tristan broke the silence. "No, we're just friends," he answered quietly, "if that's what you wanted to know." Ren's heart sank slightly at the response. He was relieved, yet disappointed at the same time. "Oh," he replied, forcing a casual tone, but he could feel his cheeks heating up. "Okay, good to know." Tristan observed Ren for a moment, his expression unreadable. "Why do you ask? You seem concerned," he probed, his voice laced with curiosity. Ren shook his head, trying to dismiss the feeling that lingered in the air. I don't know. I saw you two together at the party, and it seemed like there was something there." The honesty felt liberating, yet frightening, and he worried about how Tristan might react. Tristan chuckled softly, but there was no malice in it, just an air of understanding. "Amelia and I have history, but that was ages ago. We're friends now, nothing more," he reassured Ren, though the look in his eyes hinted at something deeper. "Got it," Ren said, trying to mask the flicker of disappointment that washed over him. He wished he could push aside the feelings that tangled in his chest. The playful banter resumed, but the underlying tension remained, casting a shadow over their playful night. As they settled in for the evening, Ren felt the comforting weight of the blanket around him, but his mind was still racing. What did it mean that he felt so drawn to Tristan? The laughter, the teasing, it all felt like something more. But now he wasn't so sure. He lay there, staring at the ceiling, lost in thoughts of what might be, and what he feared could never happen. Rumors had a funny way of spreading like wildfire at school, and by Monday morning Ren found himself under more scrutiny than he ever had before. Whispers followed him down the hallway, and the knowing glances from his classmates made him shrink into himself. It was unnerving, yet he couldn't help but wonder if it was all in his head, if people actually knew, or if it was just his own mind that couldn't stop replaying the weekend he'd spent at Tristan's house. In the cafeteria, Ren sat alone, trying to disappear behind his book. But before he could find a quiet spot to eat, Tristan appeared, flashing his usual confident grin and plopping down beside him. Ren felt the stares intensify as Tristan threw an arm casually around his shoulders, drawing them closer than Ren was used to in public. "Let them look," Tristan said in a low voice, as if he could sense Ren's discomfort. "I'm not going to pretend you don't matter just because they're curious." Ren's heart skipped a beat at Tristan's words. Did he matter to Tristan? But before he could process it, Tristan leaned in, grinning. "So, how about my third dare?" Ren looked at him, suddenly wanting to give him a challenge that would require more than his usual boldness. A challenge that would peel back the layers and show the real Tristan, not just the confident guy everyone knew. "Okay, I've got one," Ren said, steadying himself. "Write me a letter. Tell me something about yourself that no one else knows." For once, Tristan seemed caught off guard. His playful smile faded, replaced by a look of hesitation. "A letter? Really?" Ren nodded, trying to mask the vulnerability he felt in making the request. "Yeah, if you're up for it." Tristan stared at him for a moment, and something softened in his expression. "All right, I'll give it to you by the end of the week." The week passed by slowly. Ren noticed a shift in Tristan, subtle but undeniable. He caught Tristan sitting alone between classes, lost in thought, or lingering in the back of the library with a notebook, scribbling away. Ren's curiosity gnawed at him, wondering what Tristan might say. What secrets did he hold behind that confident exterior? Finally, on Friday afternoon, Tristan approached him at his locker, holding an envelope. His usual playful demeanor was absent, replaced by a rare seriousness that made Ren's pulse quicken. "Here," Tristan said, handing him the envelope, "but don't open it until you're alone, okay?" Ren nodded, carefully tucking the letter into his bag. "Thanks," he murmured, watching as Tristan turned and walked away, his posture unusually tense. That evening, Ren sat alone in his room, the letter resting in his hands. He took a steadying breath and carefully opened the envelope, unfolding the piece of paper inside. Tristan's handwriting was surprisingly neat, and as Ren began to read, his heart began to race. "Ren, I don't really know how to start this, so I guess I'll just come out and say it. I've never really felt like anyone understands me. People have always expected me to be the bad boy they see, and it's easy to play into it. Most of the time, it's just easier to let people think what they want. But lately, there's been someone who makes me feel different. This person doesn't see me the way everyone else does. They don't care about my reputation or the image I've built up. And that person has this way of making me feel things I'm not used to feeling, things I'm honestly scared to feel. If I'm honest, I've thought a lot about what it would mean to break down the walls I put up. I wonder if anyone would even like the real me if they ever saw it. And yes, sometimes I wonder if I'm just going to end up pushing this person away. But I guess my real question for you, Ren, is this. Do you think you can break through my walls?" Tristan. Ren's hands trembled as he finished reading. His heart was pounding, a mixture of excitement and uncertainty swirling inside him. He realized that Tristan hadn't just been playing a game with him all this time. The teasing, the dares, the attention, it all meant more than Ren had allowed himself to believe. He reread the last line, a question that felt like a challenge, but also a confession. Tristan was asking if he could really see him, not just the person he pretended to be. Ren knew in that moment that he wanted to try. In the quiet of his room, Ren smiled to himself, feeling a sense of hope he hadn't felt before. For the first time, he wasn't just Ren the nerd or the quiet kid. He was someone who could matter to someone like Tristan, someone who might actually be able to break down his walls. Ren couldn't shake the words from Tristan's letter. Each sentence had felt like a revelation, peeling back layers he'd never thought Tristan even had. He spent the day replaying the lines in his mind, each one resonating more deeply as he started to admit to himself what he'd been trying to ignore for so long. After school, Ren found himself staring at his phone, thumbs hovering over the screen. Finally, he sent Tristan a text. "Meet me at the park after school. There's something I want to talk about." Simple, to the point, yet his heart hammered at the thought of what this conversation might bring. Ren arrived at the park early, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the grass. He took a seat on a secluded bench, trying to calm his racing heart. He was both terrified and exhilarated by the thought of finally sharing his feelings. He knew that if he didn't do this now, he might never get the chance. A few minutes later, he saw Tristan approaching, hands in his pockets, looking unusually serious. Gone was the playful grin and cocky demeanor. Instead, there was something raw, something almost hesitant about him. He sat down beside Ren, eyes flicking over to him, with an unreadable expression. "So," Tristan said, breaking the silence first, "what did you want to talk about?" Ren took a deep breath, his fingers twisting nervously. "I read your letter, and it made me think about some things. Things I hadn't wanted to admit to myself." Tristan's gaze softened, and he leaned in, giving Ren his full attention. "Go on." Ren looked down at his hands, finding it easier to speak when he wasn't staring into Tristan's intense gaze. I know that I feel something for you. I don't know when it started, maybe that first day in detention, or maybe even before that. But whatever it is, it's real, Tristan, and I'm willing to try if you are." A moment of silence hung between them, thick and heavy with meaning. Just as Tristan opened his mouth to respond, the sound of footsteps interrupted them. Ren looked up to see Amelia, her expression unreadable as she approached. "Oh," Amelia said, a saccharine smile forming on her lips. "I didn't realize you two were here together." Tristan's face hardened, but he managed to keep his voice steady. "Amelia, now's not really a good time." "Just wanted to check in," she said, her tone casual, though her eyes never left Ren. "I was wondering where you've been hiding lately, Tristan. Thought maybe we could catch up like old times." Ren's chest tightened as she looked pointedly at him, and a pang of insecurity hit him. Amelia clearly wasn't just here for a friendly chat. Tristan shifted uncomfortably. "We're not together, Amelia, not like that." Amelia's gaze sharpened, but she quickly masked it with a sly smile. "Is that right? Because that's not what it seemed like last weekend." Her eyes drifted back to Ren. "You know, Tristan's always been a bit of a heartbreaker. Don't let yourself get too attached." Ren's face flushed, a mix of anger and embarrassment surging through him. Before he could say anything, Tristan's voice cut through the tension, firm and unyielding. "Enough, Amelia," Tristan said, his tone cold and final. "Whatever we had is over. I don't know what you're trying to do here, but I'm not interested anymore." Amelia's smile faltered, and for a second her mask slipped, revealing a flash of hurt. She quickly recovered, though, shooting Ren a disdainful look. "Well, good luck with that, Tristan. Let's see how long it lasts." She turned on her heel and walked away, her heels clicking sharply against the pavement. Ren released a shaky breath, his mind spinning with conflicting emotions. Tristan's firm dismissal of Amelia had left him stunned, and yet there was a lingering doubt gnawing at him. Was he really different from Amelia, or was he just the next fling to be discarded? The silence that followed felt heavy, but before Ren could retreat into his thoughts, Tristan reached out, touching his shoulder gently. "Ren, about what you said earlier," he murmured, his voice soft. "I meant what I said in that letter. You're different. And yeah, I want to see where this goes too. But if you're not ready, I'll understand." Ren looked up, meeting Tristan's gaze, and saw something vulnerable in his expression, something real. He managed a small, tentative smile. "I am ready. I just needed to hear you say it." Tristan's hand lingered on Ren's shoulder, his fingers warm against his skin. For the first time, Ren allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, Tristan was serious about this, about them. They sat together in quiet understanding, neither of them needing to say anything more. But as they rose to leave, a group of their classmates passed by, catching sight of them together. "Well, well," one of them sneered, eyes flicking between Ren and Tristan. "Didn't know you two were such good friends." Ren tensed, the familiar self-consciousness creeping in, but Tristan only shrugged, pulling him a little closer as they walked. "Let them talk," he said with a grin. "I'm not hiding this, and neither should you." Ren glanced up at him, feeling a newfound confidence settle within him. As they walked side by side, he couldn't help but feel that maybe he didn't need to hide anymore, that maybe, for the first time, he could be himself with someone who wanted him just as he was. The rest of the school year suddenly felt less daunting, and for the first time, Ren realized he wasn't just the quiet nerd anymore. He was someone who mattered to someone like Tristan, and he was ready to embrace whatever came next. The evening sun cast a warm glow over the park as Ren and Tristan lingered, savoring the quiet after everything they'd shared. There was a peace between them that neither wanted to disturb, a silent acknowledgement of the trust they had carefully built. As they stood by the bench where they'd had their heart-to-heart, Tristan suddenly turned to Ren, an almost mischievous glint in his eye. "So," Tristan began, his voice soft but tinged with playfulness, "I think it's time for my last dare." "Oh," Ren exclaimed, "are we still doing that?" He continued. "Of course I want my shares of dare," Tristan said in a sulking manner. "Okay, fine, go on," Ren said. Tristan paused, looking at Ren with an intensity that made his heart skip a beat. "Actually, it's more of a question this time." Ren's curiosity piqued. "Go on." Tristan took a step closer, his hand reaching out to gently tuck a strand of hair behind Ren's ear. "Can I kiss you?" Ren felt his face heat up, a blush creeping onto his cheeks, but he didn't shy away. Instead, a smile tugged at the corners of his lips, and he leaned in, planting a soft, quick peck on Tristan's lips. When he pulled back, he looked at Tristan with a playful glint in his eye. "Does that answer your question?" Ren asked, smiling. Tristan's grin widened, and without hesitation he wrapped an arm around Ren, pulling him close. This time he didn't hold back. He pressed his lips to Ren's in a deeper, more passionate kiss, one that spoke of all the words they hadn't yet said, the emotions they had been holding back. It was warm, electric, and filled with all the promise they'd been building toward. As they pulled back, both slightly breathless, Tristan kept his hand resting on Ren's waist, as if afraid to let him go. He looked into Ren's eyes, his expression both serious and tender. "Ren," he whispered, "I don't want this to end. I want us to figure this out together." Ren nodded, his heart full, his doubts finally fading away. "Me too, Tristan. I'm ready for whatever's next." They stood there, wrapped up in each other, and for the first time Ren felt completely certain that he'd found someone who understood him, who accepted him for everything he was. It was the beginning of something new, something neither of them had expected, but both were more than ready to explore.